I say in the book that if I did die, it would shock people, but it wouldn't surprise anybody. And that's what I'm doing with writing this book. That's why I wanted to do it. I wanted to just talk about the highs and the lows, because people are suffering out there. And maybe if they hear a story from somebody they've seen on TV that's worse than theirs or just the same as theirs, they'll be filled with hope, which is the key thing.
You hear that? That is her truth, Mr. I'll let you have her. I win, you suck, I rule all, mini wave and celebration to me.
For 10 seasons, Matthew Perry starred as Chandler Bing on the mega hit show Friends. While he may have been on top of the world professionally, few knew just how much Matthew was struggling with drug and alcohol addiction. Matthew is now sharing his story in his new memoir, Friends, Lovers, and the Big Terrible Thing.
The most challenging things to write were when things got really dark, but it all flew out of me. Like it all just kind of dropped onto the page. It wasn't that difficult a book to write. It's a more difficult thing to read, because you look at it and you go, wow, this is a horrible story about someone, and then you realize, oh, it's me that I'm talking about. So, you know, when things got really dark, and then, you know, they changed and they got lighter, but writing the hard stuff was the most difficult. I decided to start the book with a very terrible experience happened to me where I almost died, and it's very dramatic, and I thought it would be grabbing to the people that read it, especially the people who have this problem and how dark it can get. And the doctors that told me they told my family that I had a 2% chance to live. You know, but it's filled with hope because here I am, you know. But I wanted to start it because that's the time I really came close to my life ending. I was put on a thing called an ECMO machine, which does all the breathing for your heart and your lungs. And that's called a Hail Mary. Every doctor says it's a Hail Mary, like no one survives that. And there were 5 people put on an ECMO machine that night, and the other 4 died, and I survived. So the big question is, why? Why was I the one that survived? There has to be some kind of reason. And for those suffering out there, there is a reason. You know, the worst that can happen to somebody just gives you more tools to help somebody else, you know? And, you know, for me, there was so many lows and so much strife and struggle that, you know, I don't know anybody that I can't help, you know, because my story was so low at times. It was a secret, you know, I was hiding it from everybody. And the cast kind of knew and were supportive and nice and reached out to me, but I didn't know how to stop, you know. If the police came over to my house and said, if you drink tonight, we're going to take you to jail, I'd start packing for jail, because I didn't know how to. I couldn't stop, because the disease and the addiction is progressive. So it gets worse and worse as you grow older. So I could handle it kind of when we started it at 24, but by the time I was 34, I was, you know, really entrenched in a lot of trouble. But there were years that I was sober during that time. And the year, it's pretty interesting, season 9 was the year that I was sober the whole way through. And I would ask you to guess which season I got nominated for Best Actor. Season 9. Yeah. I was like, that should tell me something.
I mean, there's probably going to be some grunt work, which will probably stink. You know, a grown man getting people coffee is a little humiliating. Humiliating and noble.
Well, the way that the cast of Friends helped me was they were understanding and they were patient. And, you know, it's like penguins. Penguins in nature, when one is sick or when one is very injured, the other penguins surround it and prop it up and walk around till that penguin can walk on its own. And that's kind of what the Friends cast did for me. Just the creative experience of being on Friends probably saved my life. I write in the book, when you're making $1 million a week, you can't drink the 37th drink. You have to go home and go to sleep. The defining moments that ended me to kind of clean up is what's called, we call them bottoms. And they're just moments that you just feel like you can't get any lower. So you become desperate. You have the desperation of a drowning man. So you start to tell people and you start to call people for help. And, through the years, so many people have helped me, and that's made me able to help others. And I've helped 100,000 people in a weekend, but I've also helped one guy, and it's the same amount of juice that I get from it. It doesn't matter. When you see the lights go on in somebody's eyes who's been hammered or on drugs for 10 years, that's what makes your heart grow, and that's a wonderful thing. And again, probably the major reason for writing this book. But it would surprise people to know that, since 2001, I've basically been sober with, a lot of accidents along the way. Yeah, I don't want to have to fight this all the time, But it gets easier the more help you get, and the more belief you have and hope that you have that you can survive it and get through it. And the most important thing is to help people. The dedication in the book is to all the sufferers in the world, you know who you are. So and there's a very poignant part of the book where I'm in rehab and I'm watching the Academy Awards, and I say that group of people aren't my people. It's the people in the rehab that are my people, and I'm lucky to have them. And I say, I don't need an Academy Award, I just need another day. I'll tell you, I'm not run by, in terms of relationships, I'm not run by the fear I used to be run by. So everything's kind of different. I'm, feeling more confident, and I'm not afraid of love and romance and all of that stuff anymore. So, the next girl I go out with better watch out. I think I'd be a great father. I really do. I grew up with a lot of little kids around me, and I think that's probably why. But, I can't wait. It'd be so much fun to whisper to the kid something crazy and then say, go tell mom that. What I'm most surprised with is my resilience, the way that I can bounce back from all of this torture and awfulness. That night that I was in the hospital, everything that was happening, if you talk to a doctor, they all just say, no, that guy's dead. That guy is dead. So getting through that, not being selfish, wanting to tell the story, even though it's a little scary to tell all your secrets in a book, but everything's in there. I didn't leave anything out, everything's in there. I think that I know now that people have the capability of changing, which is a very, famous notion that people don't change. And I see it every day. I see people change every day. I've changed, and I've seen many people do it. So that gives me a lot of hope. You can be, on the wrong path, and all you have to do is tell somebody about it, and it starts you on the right path. So seeing people change and keep their sobriety like I have, my hope is that people will relate to it and know that this disease attacks everybody. It doesn't matter if you're successful or not successful. The disease doesn't care. I'm an extremely grateful guy. In fact, the book ends with a gratitude list that I mean everything that I say. I'm grateful to be alive, that's for sure. And that gives me the possibility to do anything.